Hi everyone, I'm Claire Bouvier and welcome back to FEiST, Female Entrepreneurs in Small Towns. Thanks so much for coming back. Really excited to talk about today's topic about consolidating and simplifying your online platform. I remember when I was a high school teacher, I was driving in the car and I had written down 93 things was on my to-do list for that day. And the teacher that I was with, he's like, "You're insane." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." But I was like, it's taken over time to realize, oh my gosh, my to-do list was insane. And most of it was like, post on this channel, post on this one, update on my LinkedIn, put a story on, do this, do that. And I think I forgot how many accounts I had, but I had close to 50 different logins to update different platforms for different audiences and different topics that I was talking about and that I was really interested in. Been online for almost 15 years. Every time I started a new idea or I thought I had another side hustle or a new project, I would create a new Facebook group, post on a new platform. And as the years went by, I became more and more overwhelmed that the platforms were taking over from the actual quality of the content that I was posting. And I still struggle, but at least a couple years ago, I realized, okay, I think the first thing to really answer before you start going in and doing the technical work and the organizational work, you really have to look intrinsically who you are and what the purpose of the content that you're putting out there. So depending on what industry you're working in, what type of business you have, or many businesses, you have to ask yourself, what can I outsource and what is the material that I'm gonna do and take ownership of? And if you have tons of accounts and you feel like you're almost putting fluff at all of them just to keep them going, you have to stop, because it becomes something that people won't wanna follow that. And I felt like, you're just putting stuff up for the sake of putting it up, but you're like, I'm not giving the quality and the attention it needs. And this podcast, it really talked about, asking what's the why? What is the purpose? If you can kind of look at everything that you're doing, maybe you're selling socks, but you're in the business of confidence. You're giving confidence when people are walking around, they have really cool socks. And it's not so much about retail and just selling the socks, but you're selling confidence. If you can look at your business and in one word, what is it that you're selling? What is it that you're trying to solve in this world? So ask yourself, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And if you can't put it in one word, we'll try, because it's so important to be able to establish what is the purpose of the content you're putting out, what's the purpose of your business, and what are the goals of your businesses or business that you're trying to reach to your audience and potentially future customers or existing clients at the time. And that was something that was really hard, because I was like, well, I'm interested in a lot of things and I feel like I'm just gonna share everything. But what happens is, whether it's your business or your personal brand, it will feel diluted and your audience will be confused and being like, am I signing up for, Claire Bouvier for female entrepreneurship, or am I signing up for photography tips? And what I've realized is that I want to do it all, creating content, helping female entrepreneurs with their photography, helping them with organize their business. So I've put it all under one umbrella, and by doing that, consolidating it, it's made my life so much easier. And I'm still having to figure that out, and sometimes I have that itch to open up another account, but I have to realize, where does it fit in? So if you're someone that's listening, you're like, yeah, I have too many accounts, or I'm doing one thing under my name, but I'm also doing another thing, but they're not really related. You have to ask yourself, how are they related? What is the problem you're solving? Is your audience identifying more with your business, or are they identifying falling more because if it's you? And a lot of people have a hard time to answer that question, because a lot of female entrepreneurs I'm working with, depending on their business, a lot of the time is that the audience is following you. They're interested in you and what you have to say. So perhaps whether you have to determine if you're building your personal brand and the messaging that you're doing and the products you're creating, or if it's a business, what is the messaging of your business? And instead of creating all these things and trying to have a narrative on LinkedIn and trying to create another narrative on YouTube and try to keep up with Twitter and do your stories on Instagram, you can feel really overwhelmed. It's really important, if you've been posting and creating tons of content at this point, you can look back and be like, well, I know my audience is most interested in getting the most activity on this space. And so, well, actually, Charles Klein was saying this in a tutorial. If it's working, double down on it. Focus, put your efforts there, because that's where your customer base, that's the foundation of your brand. That's where they're gonna go. You can post little teasers on different platforms to push them to where you house everything. And I've really struggled with that because I haven't really dedicated myself to pushing a YouTube channel, even though all of my ideas and everything, it makes more sense for me to put it here, but it was a lot more work and I wasn't really willing to dedicate. COVID's been probably really beneficial for a lot of us content creators because it's allowing us to focus and put that time in. And the other thing is, if you want a place like that, like the unfortunate thing for me was like Facebook, it's great if you're gonna put a video, but it just gets drowned in the noise quickly. Whereas at least YouTube, it can be housed there and you can use your other platforms to push your audience to that space. So the number one thing is, if you're thinking about, how do I consolidate? You have to ask yourself, what are you consolidating? In one word, what is the messaging of your business or your personal brand? Where are you trying to help people? What problem are you trying to solve? And then that's kind of the umbrella. That's like the focus. Every time you're going to post some content, every time you're going to put something out on a different platform or the platform of choice that you've dedicated to, ask yourself, am I answering that question? Am I solving that problem? There's a fantastic podcast, and preventing yourself from diluting your brand, and they call it breaking through the wall. If we have too many things we're teasing and we don't dive deep into it, our audience is not really quite sure, and they're not always ready to join us because we're kind of all over the place and we're trying different things, and they can feel that. You have to really ask yourself, what is the purpose? What is the problem I'm solving? And how do you consolidate? This might be a really big question and might be a little overwhelming to ask. How do you consolidate? The best is, I have sat down with multiple friends and said, how do you see the work that I'm doing? On the outside, what is it that you see? And sometimes we're so focused on what we think other people see. When we actually go out and ask our audience, they're like, oh, you're definitely there to support female entrepreneurs in rural towns. Whereas, for a long time, maybe I thought I was just a photographer sharing through my lens and showing them, creating narratives. It's really important to take advantage of the people that are following you, that know you really well, and get them to kind of give that feedback, because it really helps. And I think the biggest fear is, like, I remember when I shut down a whole bunch of accounts and consolidated, I was like, this is years of content that is now forever unsearchable. It's disappeared. For me, it was like, I want a simpler life. I want to be able to create better content and deeper content for my audience. And I think it's just asking yourself, if you are someone that feels so overwhelmed with all these different platforms that you're on, and you're like, how often do I post on this one? And where do I house all of my content? Just take the time to ask yourself, what is it that you're really passionate about? What are the analytics saying about the people engaging with the material? And what do you see yourself continuing to do and to keep building it out? Looking at the data, but also recognizing where you think your strengths lie and where you want to continue to grow, especially in that space. And that took a long time for me to finally pull the trigger and really commit to being like, I'm going to keep posting on this platform, and I'm going to build this channel, and everything else will feed into it. So if you were like me, please share. I would love to hear from you if you are on the journey of like trying to get organized with your digital platforms. You're not sure which one to focus on. If you have any questions, I would love to hear them, because I know it's really hard when you have tons of interest, lots of different directions you want to go, and it's really hard to consolidate and create a focus. So I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you guys are doing. Maybe some of you have totally solved this problem. Some of you don't have this problem. Tell us what you do. I've had to really work hard to focus and create something that is consistent and on top. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Claire Bouvier. Thanks for joining Female Entrepreneurs in Small Towns, FEiST, and remember, keep spreading your awesome. Thanks.